theme at the Republican National Convention is Make America Work Again. And Hillary Clinton is out with a new ad to challenge Donald Trump's record as a jobs creator and his relationship with small businesses. Here's a snippet.
I think if Donald Trump becomes president, it's going to be every man for himself. He has no plans for doing anything that's constructive for anybody except himself. We're going to suffer. That's what I said. The little man's going to suffer, and the whole country can suffer.
I want to bring in Grover Norquist right now. He is president of Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, good to see you. Your reaction to that ad?
Well, it's just sort of a nasty comment. It doesn't talk about what Donald Trump's real economic policy is. He's put it forward. It's written down. The tax plan he has would take the corporate rate, which is 35% in the United States, plus 4% state tax, so really at 39. The European average is 25. So we're not competitive with the rest of the world on how we tax businesses. He takes 35 down to 15. That puts us below China, finally, below Canada. It's a lower tax than most of the European countries, and it would really make us much more competitive than we are today. I think it would bring growth from the very lame 2% we've got now, less than 2% under Obama, up to 4%. Which is what we had under President Reagan, and that makes all the difference on jobs.
Ed Rensi, you're a business guy. What do you think?
Well, you know, I think it has to be done. There's no question about it, Maria. The oppression of taxes stifles growth. And a lot of people that are uninitiated or don't understand this stuff think that money goes into the pockets of the corporate executives or someplace mysterious. It goes to the shareholders. It goes to innovation. It goes to development. It goes to scaling business.
Back in the business.
It goes right back into the business. And it's more efficient in business than it is being wasted in government. Yeah. Plus, we've got all this money overseas that we could be bringing back here in an intelligent fashion and reinvesting in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Trump moves to a territorial system rather than the worldwide system. Most countries have territorial, meaning you tax income once in the country it's earned in, and then you can bring money that you earned in France back to the United States without paying a penalty. We tax people for repatriating resources. That's crazy.
How do you craft a speech that reaches every American tonight, regardless of the person who's giving it, that sends that message, that so you don't get lost in the technical points of corporate taxes and repatriation of corporate taxes? Because that's really the goal tonight, is to why are Republican economic policies better for you at the end of the day than those of the Democrats?
Well, one way to put it is, if we had grown since Obama, the recession Obama inherited, the way we grew after the Reagan '82 recession, which was 4% rather than 2%, there'd be 14 million more people working today if we'd had Reagan growth instead of Obama growth. That's jobs. It's not. If you talk percentages, you might lose some people, but 14 million jobs don't exist in the United States. There are 14 million families where dad or mom or brother doesn't have a job because we followed tax and spend politics rather than what Trump wants to do. I think 14 million is a big number and explains how unhappy why people are so grumpy about the economy.
And every single poll says the economy is the #1 issue. Yeah. But you have to resonate. You have to make sure this talk resonates with people. The constant pushback on his tax plan, which it's true. You go from 35% to 15% on the corporate tax rate, you have to believe that's going to move the needle huge on the economy. However, how do you pay for it?
Growth. I mean, the key thing, if you grow at 4% instead of 2% over a decade, the federal government gets more than $5 trillion in additional revenue just from growth, not raising taxes, but economic growth. So the best way to pay for tax cuts is to have tax cuts to give you growth, not just that leave the growth. Much of it pays for itself. $5 trillion, you can cut taxes a lot, and if you get $5 trillion worth of growth, that's progress.
I think Dagen asked an important question. How do you, in a speech, convey this to the grassroots voter?
Right.
A very difficult matter in one speech, but I think the way Grover's talking about this is the right way. But every CEO in the United States ought to get up on the pulpit and start talking about this tax rate and how it's killing their business.
And what it would mean to them with lower taxes.
To their employees and to their customers.
Compare, real quick, compare this plan with Hillary Clinton's tax plan.
Hillary's offered $1 trillion in higher taxes over the next decade. She's spelled out 3 different tax increases that'll do that. She's talked about attacking independent contractors. She says her words, crack down on independent contractors, making it more difficult for Uber drivers and all sorts of other independent contractors to function. That would throw another monkey wrench into the economy. A lot of people out there work in the sharing economy, the independent contractor economy.
Every Uber driver I've had, whether it's East Coast or here in the last month, that is their second job. It might be their second part-time job. Some people work full-time jobs and then they drive Uber because their wages have not gone up in the last 7.5
There
years.
are 580,000 Uber drivers now, 580,000.
Wow.
That's a voting block. There are 18 million people who use Uber. And what Hillary wants to do on cracking down on independent contractors basically makes that not legal, not possible.
I think she's got a philosophy that says government knows how to spend our money better than we do. And that policy has failed. You can see it today, less than 2% growth in the U.S. It's awful. We've got to change this.
All right, we'll leave it there. Grover, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much.